In the rich mosaic of narratives that embellish the Holy Quran, a domain exists where the mystical merges with the miraculous. Within its verses, we discover entities of extraordinary character, whose tales emerge vibrantly from the Holy Scriptures, beckoning us to delve into a realm beyond our ordinary existence. This expedition leads us into the core of the Quran, to reveal the stories of 10 of the most enigmatic beings, creatures that have fascinated the minds of the faithful for ages. The Jinn. The Quran introduces us to the Jinn as beings created before humans, formed from smokeless fire. This ethereal nature grants them extraordinary abilities, such as superhuman speed and the ability to shape-shift. However, like humans, the Jinn have free will, meaning they can choose between good and evil, and are accountable for their actions before Allah. The Jinn, as mentioned in the Quran, were created by Allah from the smokeless fire, or a scorching wind. They are invisible to humans, but have the ability to see humans and interact with the physical world. This duality places them in a unique position within Islamic cosmology, acting as a bridge between the seen and the unseen, the material and the spiritual. One of the most fascinating accounts of the Quran involving the Jinn is found in the story of Prophet Sulaiman. Sulaiman, who was granted powers over the Jinn, used them to perform tasks that required their supernatural abilities. This included the construction of magnificent structures and the execution of extraordinarily fast journeys. This account highlights not only the power that Allah can bestow upon His prophets, but also the submission of all creatures, including the Jinn, to the divine will. The existence of the Jinn serves as a reminder for humans that not everything that exists is visible, and that there is more to creation than what our limited senses perceive. It teaches us about the diversity of Allah's creatures and the importance of the invisible world in our spiritual life. Additionally, the stories of the Jinn in the Quran teach lessons about moral responsibility and accountability, regardless of the nature of creation. In Islam, the Jinn are also remembered in the context of protection and spiritual influence. Muslims often seek protection against malevolent Jinn through recitations of the Quran and adhering to spiritual practices that reinforce their shield against negative influences. This highlights a fundamental spiritual practice in Islam: the constant seeking of refuge in Allah against the forces of evil, whether seen or unseen. The Jinn are undoubtedly one of the most mysterious and fascinating beings in the Quran. Through the stories and teachings involving them, Muslims are called to reflect on the hidden realities of the world and the complexities of good and evil. Ultimately, the Jinn are not just creatures of fire, they are a mirror of our own choices and a reminder of Allah's vast and diverse creation. The elephant of Abraha's army. The story of the elephant in Abraha's army is found in the Quran and is particularly remembered every year during the month of Muharram, reflecting a crucial event preceding the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. This tale is not only an episode of divine intervention, but also a lesson about the sovereignty and power of Allah. Abraha, the Christian governor of Yemen, ambitious and defiant, built an envious cathedral in Sana'a with the intention of diverting pilgrimage from the Kaaba in Mecca to his own structure. Failing in his objective, he decided to invade Mecca with a large army, including a massive elephant named Mahmud to lead the charge and destroy the Kaaba. As Abraha's army approached the Kaaba, the elephant stopped, refusing to advance towards the sacred city despite efforts to force it towards Mecca. This action of the elephant, Mahmud, is seen as a clear sign of respect and reverence towards the sacred, an animal instinctively rejecting participation in an act of desecration. The climax of this story occurs when Allah sends a swarm of Ababil birds, each carrying 3 small stones, one in each claw and one in its beak. As they were hurled upon Abraha's army, the stones functioned as deadly projectiles, effectively destroying the invading army and protecting the sanctity of the Kaaba. This miracle not only demonstrated divine protection over the Kaaba, but also the futility of challenging Allah's will with arrogance and military force. The story of the elephant in Abraha's army teaches several important lessons. Divine protection. Allah's direct intervention shows that no act of human defiance can alter His will. Humility before the sacred. The elephant's respect for the Kaaba is a reminder that veneration towards the sacred is intrinsic, even in creatures. Futility of earthly power. No matter how great the power or plan, nothing prevails against divine will. The story of Abraha's elephant is not merely a tale of victory. It echoes with the mercy and authority of Allah, reminding all believers that true protection and victory come only from above. It is a story that resonates with the power of faith and the inevitability of divine justice. Dabbat al-Ard, translated as the beast of the earth, is one of the mysterious creatures mentioned in the Quran that appears in the last days as a sign of the final judgment. This being, although shrouded in mystery, carries with it important messages and divine warnings. The Quran describes Dabbat al-Ard in Surah An-Nahl 27-82, where it is mentioned that it will emerge from the earth to address humanity. The beast will emerge at a time when faith has faded and divine guidance is ignored by many. The exact nature of this creature is not fully detailed, but its appearance is a clear indication that the end times are near. The primary role of Dabbat al-Ard is to distinguish between believers and non-believers. According to Islamic traditions, it will mark people on their noses using the staff of Musa and the ring of Sulaiman to identify the true followers of Allah. This action symbolizes the final separation between those who have maintained their faith and those who have rejected divine warnings. Dabbat al-Ard represents the divine response to widespread corruption and deviation on earth. It is a reminder that, although Allah's patience is immense, there is a limit beyond which definitive justice is established. The appearance of this beast is a call to reflection and repentance before it is too late, emphasizing the importance of maintaining faith and following divine teachings in times of trial and desolation. For modern believers, the story of Dabbat al-Ard is not only a warning about the end times, but also a lesson about the consequences of straying from spiritual truth. In an era marked by materialism and skepticism, the narrative of Dabbat al-Ard serves as a powerful reminder that the foundations of faith should not be ignored, and that a return to spiritual values is crucial. Dabbat al-Ard is a figure that encapsulates divine justice and mercy. It is both a warning and a guide for the last days. Its story is a call to evaluate our actions and beliefs, reinforcing the idea that every soul will be accountable to Allah when the final moment arrives. Through this narrative, Muslims are urged to live with awareness and preparation for the inevitable day of judgment. The hoopoe bird, also known as hudhud, holds a special place in Islamic stories as the messenger of Prophet Sulaiman, who was endowed by Allah with the ability to communicate with animals. This story highlights divine wisdom and the interconnectedness of all creatures of Allah. The Quran mentions the hudhud in Surah An-Nahl 27-28, where the bird is described as a keen observer and a loyal servant of Prophet Sulaiman. At one point, the hudhud disappears for a while, and upon returning, informs Sulaiman about the kingdom of Sheba, ruled by a queen who worshipped the sun instead of Allah. The story unfolds as the hudhud, under Sulaiman's orders, delivers a letter to the queen of Sheba, inviting her to submit to the will of Allah and warning her against arrogance and idolatry. The intelligence and diplomacy of the hudhud are crucial in this exchange, as it not only communicates the message, but also ensures peaceful understanding between two powerful kingdoms. The hudhud symbolizes the importance of observation and intelligence in the service of faith. This bird is not just a messenger, but a reminder that Allah can use any creature, no matter how small, to fulfill His divine purposes. The story also teaches about the value of communication and understanding between different cultures and beliefs, highlighting that wisdom is necessary to guide others toward truth. The intervention of the hudhud leads to a significant change in the kingdom of Sheba. The queen, impressed by Sulaiman's wisdom and the mysterious letter from the bird, decides to visit Sulaiman, ultimately leading her to accept monotheism and acknowledge the supremacy of Allah. This narrative not only underscores the effectiveness of faith-guided diplomacy, but also the power of conversion and spiritual enlightenment through acts of obedience and humility. In a world where cultural and religious differences often result in conflict, the story of the Hudhud is a call to value diversity and to seek peace and understanding through mutual respect and dialogue. The Hudhud's ability to build bridges between different worlds is an inspiring example for believers and non-believers alike. The story of the Hudhud in the Quran is much more than a simple adventure tale. It is a profound lesson on the use of wisdom and diplomacy in promoting faith and understanding. Through this narrative, Muslims are reminded of the importance of patience, intelligence, and respect in approaching the challenges of the modern world. Al-Buraq is one of the most emblematic and mystical beings mentioned in Islamic traditions. This celestial creature played a crucial role in one of the most miraculous events in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, his journey from Mecca to Jerusalem and his ascension to heaven. Al-Buraq is described in Hadith traditions as a white creature, larger than a donkey but smaller than a mule, with wings on its sides that allow it to move at the speed of lightning. This extraordinary being is known for its beauty and supernatural speed, qualities that qualify it to be the mount of the Prophet in his journey between the earthly and celestial worlds. On the night of Isra, Al-Buraq carried the Prophet Muhammad from the sacred mosque in Mecca to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. This journey not only demonstrated the miraculous ability of Al-Buraq, but also the divine connection between the holiest sites of Islam and the continuity of prophecy through Ibrahim, Musa, and Isa, who are also revered at the site. After arriving in Jerusalem, the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven in the company of the Archangel Gabriel. During this part of the journey, Al-Buraq ascended through the different levels of heaven, allowing the Prophet to meet with different previous prophets and finally witness the divine presence of Allah. This aspect of the journey underscores the importance of Al-Buraq as a vehicle for spiritual elevation and direct connection with the divine. Al-Buraq symbolizes purity, the speed of faith, and the believer's ability to transcend the limits of the physical world. It is a reminder that miracles are possible with divine help, and that the faith of the believer has the power to elevate him to higher realities. Al-Buraq also teaches that sacred places on earth are intrinsically connected in divine purpose, unifying the messages of the prophets across time and space. In the modern context, Al-Buraq remains a symbol of the spiritual journey that every believer is called to undertake. In an era where materialism and distraction are omnipresent, the story of Al-Buraq invites Muslims to seek deeper spiritual experiences and to connect with the tradition and history of their faith. The story of Al-Buraq in the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and ascension is one of the most inspiring and spiritually significant narratives in Islam. Through this celestial creature, Muslims are reminded of the closeness of the divine, the importance of faith, and the possibility of reaching realities beyond ordinary human understanding. The Whale of Yunus. The story of Prophet Yunus and the whale is one of the most evocative and symbolic in the Quran, highlighting themes of repentance, punishment, and ultimately, redemption. This tale not only reinforces Allah's mercy, but also underscores the importance of prophetic obedience. The Quran narrates the story of Yunus, a prophet sent to the city of Nineveh to warn its people of divine punishment due to their iniquities. However, faced with initial resistance from his people and feeling desperate, Yunus prematurely abandons his mission and boards a ship, where he is swallowed by a giant whale. This event occurs as a result of Yunus's decision to flee from his divine responsibility. Once inside the whale, Yunus finds himself in profound darkness, both physical and spiritual. In this moment of utter desolation, he turns to Allah with a sincere prayer of repentance and supplication, acknowledging his mistake and seeking mercy. The Quran highlights this prayer as an example of how genuine repentance can lead to divine redemption. Allah, in his infinite mercy, commands the whale to expel Yunus safely onto the shore. This release is not only a physical act, but also a spiritual rebirth for Yunus, who returns to Nineveh to fulfill his mission with renewed fervor and is ultimately accepted by his people. The story demonstrates the importance of patience, perseverance, and unwavering faith in divine decrees, even when the situation seems dire. The whale, in this narrative, symbolizes more than just a mere fish. It represents a refuge for forced reflection and transformation. This immense aquatic being becomes the medium through which Yunus not only faces the consequences of his actions, but also receives a second chance to rectify and fulfill his prophetic destiny. In the modern world, the story of Yunus and the whale resonates as a reminder that it is never too late to correct our mistakes and return to the right path. This narrative encourages believers not to despair in Allah's mercy, regardless of the magnitude of their challenges. It also teaches about personal responsibility and the impact of our choices, both on ourselves and others. The story of the whale of Yunus is a testament to the power of sincere supplication and personal transformation. Through this narrative, Muslims are inspired to maintain hope and faith even in the darkest moments, and to always remember the omnipresence of divine mercy. The Serpent of Musa. The Serpent of Musa is a prominent figure in the Qur'anic stories related to the Prophet Musa and his miraculous confrontations with the Pharaoh. This narrative not only showcases the supremacy of Allah, but also emphasizes the legitimacy and power of Musa as a true prophet. Within the Quran, the story of the serpent appears when Allah commands Musa to cast his staff upon the ground. Upon doing so, the staff miraculously transforms into a living serpent. This miracle is one of the first that Musa performs to demonstrate his prophetic mandate both to the Pharaoh and the Israelites, and it is a clear indication of the authority bestowed upon him by Allah. During his confrontation with the Pharaoh, Musa uses this miracle to prove the authenticity of his mission. In the Pharaoh's court, where the summoned magicians also perform tricks that mimic this phenomenon, Musa's serpent is shown to be superior, devouring the false serpents produced by the magicians. This act not only demonstrates the superior power of divine miracles, but also symbolizes the defeat of deceit and falsehood by truth. The transformation of the staff into a serpent symbolizes spiritual transformation and awakening. It is a demonstration of how the ordinary, when touched by divinity, can become extraordinary. The story also teaches about the superiority of divine power over all earthly powers and the futility of challenging that supremacy. The Serpent of Musa is also a reminder of the power of faith and trust in Allah. Musa, by following Allah's instructions without hesitation, was able to perform acts that defy human understanding. This story encourages believers to maintain their faith in Allah, especially in times of trial and adversity. In modern times, the story of Musa's serpent offers lessons on the importance of authenticity and honesty in a world filled with deceit and falsehoods. It encourages believers to seek truth and stand firm in their convictions, trusting that Allah will support truth with His power. Musa's serpent is not simply a mystical creature of the past. It is a lasting symbol of prophetic authority, the victory of truth over falsehood, and the manifestation of divine power in the world. This story is a powerful and enduring reminder that, with the guidance and help of Allah, the impossible can become possible. The Camel of Selah. The Camel of Selah is a central figure in the story of the Prophet Selah, sent to the Thamud people, a tribe that lived in the region now known as Saudi Arabia. This tale, found in the Quran, offers a powerful lesson about obedience to Allah and the consequences of disobedience. Salah, a prophet sent by Allah, was commanded to preach to the tribe of Thamud, who were deeply immersed in idolatry and corruption. To prove his prophecy and challenge his people to recognize the power of Allah, Salah presented them with a miraculous camel, which emerged from the rocks of the mountain as a divine sign. Salah's camel was not a common animal. It was an extraordinary creature, a sign of Allah. Salah warned his people not to harm the camel and to allow it to drink freely from its spring on alternate days. This camel was also a test of the people's faith. Respecting the camel meant obeying Allah and receiving His mercy. Unfortunately, the disbelief of Thamud led some of them to openly defy the divine command. The camel was eventually wounded and killed by those who refused to accept Salah's sign and message. This action provoked the wrath of Allah, resulting in the destruction of the tribe of Thamud by a devastating earthquake, serving as a severe reminder of the consequences of disobeying Allah's commands. The story of Salah's camel emphasizes several essential themes in Islam, including faith, patience, and the repercussions of our actions. The severity of Thamud's punishment reflects the seriousness with which Allah considers obedience to His signs and prophets. It is a call to respect Allah's signs in our own lives and to remain faithful to His word. The camel symbolizes the clarity of divine signs and the simplicity of the faith required to follow those signs. It is a tangible reminder that the wonders of Allah are present in the world and that denying these evidences can lead to our own destruction. Today, the story of Salah's camel resonates as a reminder that divine justice is omnipresent and that arrogance and disdain towards prophetic teachings can have serious consequences. It also teaches us about the importance of community and shared responsibility in upholding justice and morality within society. Salah's camel is more than just a beast in an ancient tale. It is a symbol of faith and obedience, a warning against arrogance, and a testament to Allah's love and mercy for those who follow His ways. This story offers valuable lessons for all believers, urging them to live with an awareness of divine signs in their daily lives. The cows in the story of Musa. The story of the cow in the Quran is found in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, and one of the longest. This episode highlights the interaction between Musa, the children of Israel, and a cow, which becomes the centerpiece of a significant event that teaches about faith, obedience, and the consequences of hesitation and unnecessary complication in fulfilling divine mandates. The tale begins when a man from the children of Israel is murdered, and the identity of the killer remains unknown. Allah commands Musa to instruct his people to sacrifice a cow as part of a divine ritual to reveal the murderer. What follows is a series of questions and answers that reflect the reluctance and unnecessary complication on the part of the children of Israel. Despite the clear divine instruction, the children of Israel respond with a series of questions, doubting and seeking further details on which cow to sacrifice, reflecting their reluctance and possible lack of faith. This is interpreted in Islamic tradition as an example of how disobedience and lack of faith can complicate a task that could have been simple. Finally, after receiving detailed descriptions, the children of Israel sacrificed the cow, albeit reluctantly. Using part of the cow, Musa performs the miracle of identifying the murderer, thus demonstrating the power and wisdom of Allah. This act reveals how direct obedience to divine instructions is crucial and how faith must manifest in action. The story of the cow teaches several important lessons: faith and obedience, the need to trust in divine instructions without unnecessarily complicating Allah's mandates, the consequence of doubt, showing how doubt and hesitation can lead to unnecessary complications, and how simple obedience can facilitate problem solving. Divine revelation. The story underscores that Allah has supreme knowledge and that following His guidance can lead to unexpected and miraculous solutions. In this narrative, the cow symbolizes more than just a simple animal. It represents faith and obedience in their purest form. It is a reminder that divine mandates, no matter how unusual they may seem from a human perspective, have deeper and more significant purposes. In the modern context, the story of the cow resonates as a reminder of the importance of clarity in faith and religious practice. It teaches that in the pursuit of spiritual guidance, one should avoid unnecessarily complicating clear principles and instructions, fostering direct and sincere religious practice. The story of the cows in the lives of Musa and the children of Israel is not just a history lesson. It is a perpetual guide on how to approach the mandates of faith. Through this narrative, Muslims are invited to reflect on their own obedience and how they address Allah's instructions in their daily lives. The Birds of Ababil. The Birds of Ababil are mentioned in the Quran in the context of the failed invasion attempt of the Kaaba by Abraha and his army, who planned to destroy the central sanctuary of Islam with a war elephant. This story, known as the event of the elephant, highlights a divine miracle that protected the sanctity of the Kaaba. The incident of the Birds of Ababil is narrated in Surah Al-Fil 105, where it is described how these small birds, sent by Allah, carried clay stones to throw at Abraha's army. Each bird carried 3 stones, one in each foot and one in its beak, and with miraculous accuracy, they hurled these stones at the invaders. The Birds of Ababil attacked with such effectiveness that Abraha's army was completely devastated. The clay stones, though small, were blessed with a supernatural destructive power, showing that even the smallest creatures can be instruments of divine will when it comes to protecting the sacred. The miracle of the Birds of Ababil symbolizes divine defense of holy places and the futility of any human attempt to destroy what Allah has chosen to protect. This event teaches that no matter the size or strength of the adversary, Allah's protection is always superior. Furthermore, it reflects the idea that Allah can use seemingly insignificant means to fulfill His grand purposes, a recurring theme in Islamic teachings. This tale also serves as a clear warning about the consequences of defying the will of Allah and attempting to alter or destroy what He has established as sacred. Abraha's defeat was not just a military victory. It was an affirmation of divine justice and a demonstration of how Allah's sovereignty extends over all things. For modern believers, the story of the Birds of Ababil is a reminder of Allah's omnipotence and the importance of respecting religious symbols and holy places. In a world where values and sacred places are often challenged or scorned, this narrative reaffirms the need to maintain faith and reverence toward the divine. The Birds of Ababil are not just figures of a past miracle, they are enduring symbols of how divine grace manifests even through the humblest means. This story is not only a testimony of a historical event, but also a source of inspiration for all who seek to understand the magnitude of Allah's power and His unwavering commitment to the protection of His creation.